Make sure they can. But. Introduce me. All right, good here.
Okay, hello everyone. Hope you can hear me okay. And get our slides together here quickly. Welcome back, everyone. We are going to continue speaking on just working with sellers. We covered quite a bit. Jasmine touched on a lot of the things that we've talked about over the few weeks. I will touch on them briefly just to kind of recap and set things up for our training for today. So ultimately, what we're going to get to today is marketing the listing. So I'm going to, like I said, recap some of the things that we talked about. So over the last few weeks and most of this month, we've been talking about working with sellers, and we started off with the listing process. We started off with a seller lead. What do we do when we get that seller lead? And we emphasize wanting to be prepared for that, right? So after you get that seller lead, we then talked about preparing ourselves pre-listing preparation. We also talked about the appointment. How do we prepare for it? What do we do when we're at that appointment? In addition to that, we went into extensive detail on that listing presentation, what we're supposed to do, where do we find all these documents, right? In addition to that, we went through the listing agreement. Just to make sure everyone got a chance hands-on to go into brokerment, figure out how that works, navigate through that system, and know exactly how to complete a listing agreement. Prepare the property and marketing the listing. That's kind of where we're going to transition to today. But we're going to go over some things that lead to that. So let's start with preparing the listing. I'm going to go over these. If you guys have questions, please either raise your hand, chime in. Our host is going to assist me with, any feedback or questions that you guys have, because I can't see that on my screen at the moment. But the very first thing we do, we want to prepare that listing, right? So we have already, let's imagine where we are at this point. We have done the presentation. Our seller has signed the document. And now they're our client, and we have to get started on what to do next. So some of the things we've done when we arrived at the property, we did evaluate the property a little bit. We kind of observed the exterior as well as the interior, what that condition looks like. It's very important that we do that, because we talked about this the other week. It's important to do that because it helps us to price the home, right? We want to price it properly, and it helps with our CMA to know the condition of the property. But that's also going to help us to prepare the listing. So once we have observed these things and we've done our CMA, a lot of the times we have a range. If the work isn't done, if there's some, the property condition isn't great and it needs a few things, it needs some attention, we might price the property a little lower, right? We'll go with that price. It's in the lower part of our range. Now, if we can suggest some things for our seller to do, that might be incentive for them to list in a higher price range. So it's always helpful to know what their intentions are. Do they intend to sell the property as is? Perhaps they don't have the financial means to make those repairs and to do some things. So it's very important that we determine if they have a budget to correct some of the items to make those improvements that we're going to discuss here shortly. So either way, we present every property as an as-is property. Once that budget is determined, we'll have a better idea of what this seller can do. Again, we're trying to get them the best price in the quickest amount of time with the least amount of hassle. But ultimately, we want to attract the most buyers possible, and we want them to fall in love with this property. We want them to notice and kind of appreciate the things that the property has to offer. So depending on what their budget is, that's going to help us to determine, are they going to need contractors? We're going to determine that. But we also need to create a timeline. If the seller is going to make some of these repairs, we need to know how much time they need, right? Because we have the listing, we want to know when it's going to go active, but more importantly, we want to start marketing the property. So we want to know how long it's going to take for those those improvements that they're going to make. Because we want to put the property in coming soon status. We want to start marketing the property, and coming soon allows us to market the property 21 days prior to it going active. And that's 3 full weeks. And that's, ultimately what we're talking about. We're talking about marketing the listing. And that's why the coming soon status is so important. But that budget and that timeline is going to help us to determine or to try to guess, or when are we going to put this property in coming soon, to kind of guesstimate or estimate when the work is going to be complete, so it'll be ready by the time it goes active. So these are all things that we'll do to help the seller. We're still holding their hand and guiding them through the process. So after we create this timeline, we know exactly when it's coming soon. We know exactly when it's going to go active. We can assist them. We can continue to assist them. So now they're preparing their home to sell. Like I said, the suggestions that you're giving are to not just, your seller might say, well, I love this feature, or I love this orange sofa. And we have to sometimes help them to see things from a different perspective, from the buyer's eye, not just one buyer, but something that's pretty neutral that most buyers would be attracted to. So we'll have to have, conversations with them to try to get them to see things differently, and then appreciate the changes we're going to make. One thing I usually tell them when we're trying to get them to change their property, and they love all these things, mindset is important. And we need to prepare them for a move. They have an upcoming move. We're trying to sell their home quick. So they should be packing things up, moving, and how they want the home to present isn't all that important. They can start packing these things up and prepare for that next property. So we'll train them to see things from that buyer's perspective. Also, if they do have a budget, we can go ahead and get contractors to come in and give some estimates to help, figure out what we're going to do to improve the property. Now, there are some situations where the seller does not have a huge budget, or they might not have anything, and that's fine. Can we still make improvements to the property when our seller doesn't have a budget? Answer is yes. So you'll deal with listings sometimes where someone's selling a home for someone else. A lot of the times they're not going to come in and spend their money to make these repairs, and someone trying to make a move may not want to invest too much into this property. They may decide they want to invest in their next home. But that's where we come in, and this is one of the layers of value that we're going to provide. We're going to show them how to make those improvements at low to no cost. There are no cost improvements and there are low cost improvements. And we're going to go over those so that we can help our our seller to present the home at its best. So we're going to call these improvements for the sake of this lesson. We've prepared the listing, but we're improving it so that we can either get a higher value or just to present it well so that we can attract as many buyers as possible. Not only that, but it's preparing us for marketing the property. We can market a property that's kind of dim and gloomy and dirty, but we're going to have a much, much better luck with finding buyers if we can present something in a much better state. So some of those no cost and budget friendly improvements are, and while I'm going through this list, this is a short list. So if you can think of anything that we can add to the list, put it in the chat, raise your hand, and just be prepared to kind of chime in when we get to the end of this list. But the easiest thing to do, or one of the things that's free, is to declutter the home. And I usually tell sellers, when you're decluttering the home, when you're moving is probably the easiest time to declutter, because you finally have to pull everything out of those closets, the attic. And if you had a struggle in trying to find storage for these things, or you were having issues parting with them, you don't want to take all of this baggage or this extra stuff to their next property, wherever that may be. So when they're working on decluttering, I usually tell them, box up this stuff, box up the things you're taking with you, and then additionally box up the things that you don't want, so we can start donating those items. We can trash some of those things that needed attention much sooner than now. So decluttering is one of the most important things your seller can do to prepare your property for coming on the market and improving the property. What it also does is it removes a lot of that extra stuff in the home that hides what the buyer is actually purchasing. They're not buying all those things. So we want, people will get pods and different things like that in order to clear the space as much as possible. Another more important thing that I guess people tend to overlook is how bright the home is. So, it doesn't cost anything to open up those windows, clean them up, open up the blinds. If you can open up the blinds all the way, and I mean, or remove them even, those are things that are going to allow the property to show much better. That natural light is priceless. And if your home has lots of windows, let's let that natural light in. In the event that you have rooms without the light, add lighting, add lamps, do things to brighten up the space. It makes a huge difference, not just for those buyers that come in, but when we have our photographer come in, it's really going to highlight how spacious the property is or some of the features that are going to sell the property. Now, we talked about repairs. There are some repairs that your seller can do that may not cost anything, right? It may not cost much. We talked about low cost as well, or budget-friendly repairs. It might be painting a room. If your seller doesn't have a huge budget for a contractor to come in, they can have some friends come over, they can do it themselves. Sometimes it's just touching up things. If they have carpet and there's some stains, maybe they can work on clearing out, taking care of some of those stains. But this is both interior and exterior things that need attention. So you can help by making a list of the repairs that you recommend. Some of them will require contractors, others won't, but we want to definitely assist them with that. Another very important aspect of improving the property and getting it ready for the market is to deep clean the property. If there's nothing else that they can do, you want to definitely do that because that will attract many buyers as well. I highly recommend a professional deep clean. When you're calling some of these companies that do the cleanings, ask for a move out or a deep clean. They're going to get a more thorough clean. They will include appliances, cabinets, they'll even do windows. So depending on what this property needs, I highly recommend the deep clean. A lot of folks will say, oh, I'll do it myself. And that's okay sometimes. But what I recommend is provide the list of what someone will be doing for a deep clean. If you provide that to them and say, well, these are the things I would need you to complete, they may pass on doing it themselves because that list can be quite overwhelming for someone to do it on their own. Lastly, before we get to staging the property, we want to make sure they remove their personal items. Some people are on the fence with that, but I highly recommend it. They're moving. And that's pretty much why, there's lots of reasons why we depersonalize the property. I don't go into the details there other than I keep them focused, their mindset on you're moving, let's start packing your things up. Because I've had a situation where, you tell them take photos down and things like that. These are things they want to take with them anyway. These are things that aren't going to benefit the sale because people don't know, who they are, but you want to depersonalize it. This is what I try to get them to look at. When you go to a model home, we are drawn in and pulled into every room. We want to live there. We want the furniture. We want everything, right? So imagine this being a model home. And this is kind of what I prepare my sellers to imagine that as well. Let's present this home. We know that you live here, but we don't want any traces that you live here. We want them to put away their hairbrushes, their toothbrushes, the photos, because when I go to a model home, I don't see, grandparents on the wall. I don't see those things. What you want to do is keep it neutral so people can imagine what they would put there or imagine themselves being there. So definitely depersonalize. I've had some people who've had some things that were maybe some religious items. If people have just different things, it can cause a little bit of tension. But just keep in mind, if you stay focused on their mindset of you're about to move, that's why we're removing these things so that, you can avoid the possibly offending someone by having them remove those items. But just try to stay focused on clearing those things out. But then that leads us to staging the property. We've had some sellers who've done a tremendous job. Darlene has a listing right now. One of the sellers staged the home. I've never seen anything like it. And we've had listings where we've had homeowners who have had great taste and homes decorated great. But this particular seller, she staged her home the way we would stage a home. So it was really impressive. However, it's something that doesn't have to cost. We tend to call it like a restage, and I'm going to get into what that looks like. It's not, you have these companies who'll come out, and I don't know if you've ever priced staging, but it can be upwards of $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, depending on the size of the home and what that property needs. So we're going to show you a few little tips and things that you can do to improve the home without that cost. keep in mind that the things we discussed can all be done during the coming soon status. So now we're at staging the listing. Now, the purpose of this, we want to maximize the space. So many of you visited the property that we had after the boot camp. That home, the furniture and the decor there was fine. There was nothing wrong with it. But we came in as a team and just stage it from the buyer's perspective. We actually use some of the things that we like, that we think would attract the buyer, and we just kind of complement it and add to it. But some of that consists of maximizing the space. How do we maximize a space for a seller that's already living in the property and it's already furnished? So what we can do is we come in, we might move some things. You might have a room in your own home where the bedroom has a bed, nightstands, 2 dressers, a chair, and you might be okay living that way, but we want buyers to appreciate the size of that space. So one of those dressers may have to go. If your client can't afford a pod or things like that, I recommend that dresser going to a different room. So we can move things around. These things don't cost anything. Not saying we have to move them, but it's just a matter of posting it and saying, I need this to go to this room, and they can have someone come in and do it. There have been times where we've done it. But you don't have to do that. But there are different tools and things that you can recommend for your seller and or use yourself. You just want to be careful not to damage anything. And I'd like to put that on the seller, but there's glides and different things that you can use. But in addition to maximizing the space, that's why it's so important to declutter, right? When you declutter your own home, it makes things look so much bigger, right? And you appreciate that space more. I usually tell people, as far as maximizing the space, another rule that I have is surface areas, clear them all off. When I tell them clear them all off, I get this look like I can't have a lamp. So then, I would deal with, I can't have a lamp. So it was, you're allowed to have up to 3 things on every surface area. I still would change it, but that's what I needed them to turn over to me so that I could help improve their home, okay? So I would go into a home and they would manage to find 3 things to put on the surface areas. But that's even in the kitchens, dressers. We don't need 2 lamps. We don't need the mirror, the jewelry box, and everything. We don't need that unless we put it there. So just keep that in mind. Another thing is we accessorize, or we add a little bit of pops of decor and color. So we might add a plant to a room, and that might be, you may have a bathroom, they've cleaned the bathroom, it looks great. We add a plant and some towels. Costs nothing, right? So these are things you can ask the seller to pull these things out, and you can help them arrange these things to present the home in a way that makes it a little bit more appealing. Always create the space to make it warm and inviting. We talked about that a little bit ago about the model home and the feeling you have. When you go to a model home, you just can't wait you don't want to leave, but you can't wait to go to the next one. And you want to go into every room, and that's kind of the experience we want someone to have at your open house. Now, the house doesn't have to be brand new and remodeled for them to have this experience. We've had listings that were over 5,000 square feet. And the seller said, well, I don't have a budget to stage this home. And trust me, our restaged inventory couldn't furnish a 5,000 square feet home. We went through the home and we put towels in the bathrooms and we put decor in the kitchen. That's all we did. And keep in mind, if you definitely want to market a home that has furniture, when we get into the photography portion, you can do virtual staging, but there are rules to that. So make sure you're following that as well. But again, focus on that warm and pull them into the room. So we did a room, we staged a house, all 5 bedrooms. They were all empty, but we tucked away little things in the closet. So of course they're coming in to see how big the closets were. And then they were like, oh, wow. It changed their whole mood by just giving them something like little surprises throughout. In addition to that, and what we do also is we highlight special features in the home. So we do this in layers. When you are marketing your property, you want to highlight those features, whether you list them. First of all, when you're putting it in the MLS, you want to list those features in your remarks section, right? We don't want it to get missed there. If you want to add a document that you want to add with your documents that go with your disclosures, you can point out some of those features there so that they're not missed. The reason why it's so important, though, is because, marking off hardwood floors and not putting it in the remarks, someone's about to put an offer on this property. So we want to make sure when they put the offer, and if they're competing with someone else, they see every bit of value, and you want to highlight that value. So in addition to making those little, gestures where you're adding it somewhere, we tag properties. So if you've seen any listings at Porterhouse, everyone doesn't do it, but I recommend it for this reason. Let's say you have a hallway with a ton of doors, like what's in here? Sometimes letting them know, hey, this is the basement, or this is an extra pantry. Those are things that are important. I don't know if you guys ever been to IKEA. When you go to IKEA, they have an incredible showroom that we all love to go to. And when we start, we spend, by the time we leave, we're like, did I just spend an hour and a half going from showroom to showroom? But we see all these clever things that we want to include in our home. So that's the idea of the tagging. It's not just to say this is the garage, right? But it pulls them in, right? But if there's something behind that door that you want to highlight, and you're not confident that that buyer agent is going to come in and highlight those things, then you do it. So let's say we have a 4-bedroom. Someone only needs a 3-bedroom. We might put, well, I'll actually go through some of these here. So I added a few tags if you see them here. These are some of the things that we've done to show them how versatile a space can be and how you can highlight them. Again, remember today we're talking about marketing. So if you're wondering, why are we doing this? This is why it helps with the marketing and to show additional value. So we obviously know the kitchen's the kitchen. But if you label the kitchen as the eat-in kitchen because there's no table there, it's like, oh, okay. I see it here. I have a formal dining room and an eat-in kitchen. So you highlight that. But if you notice, I like to put little notes under those tags. It says provides plenty of storage and overlooks the spacious backyard. So on one tag, I found a way to pull them into something else that's exciting that they may have overlooked because they didn't see that view, right? Another one is, let me see if I can move. Okay, sorry. Okay, I didn't want to do that. All right. Bedroom. Spacious bedroom, fit for a queen or king size bed. That was my little pun on that one. They think, okay, that's cute. Because if the room is big enough and there's no furniture in it, I'm letting them know not only can a queen size bed fit in here, but so can a king size bed. I can't always rely on that buyer's agent to come in and do what I would do at an open house. So I'm going to do it for them. And I don't have to rely on that buyer agent to say it because the people who come in can read it, right? The other thing is living room. It boasts beautiful hardwood floors and vaulted ceilings. Now, we clearly know that there's vaulted ceilings there, but we're just highlighting and reminding them of some other things that will attract them. Formal dining room, great for weeknight dinners or for holiday gatherings. So I think I had some other ones on here. It's funny, I did one at this last listing, and I think in the family room, I put something like, oh, I wish I had it. I wish I had put this one on here, but it said something like Netflix and chill near the fireplace and blah and some other things. And my daughter saw it and she told me that was so cringy, but I'm telling you, it's not cringy. It gives them, right, she's 20. She doesn't know what we're doing here. There's so much layers of this. Cringy. She just said that embarrassed her. And the 20-year-old who can't buy a home was escorted off the property. But when people do read these things, it pulls them into the space where normally they peek their head in and they're missing some valuable things that the property offers. So if you have a utility room with shelving, we're not just putting, if you put utility room, they'll open it. But why not put utility room with tons of storage? So it's highlighting all those things that we want to try to, get the buyer's attention and to get more value, more, a higher price. Miss Pat has a question.
No, I was going to just comment. I think your comments there just help the buyer's agent and the buyer as well to see what's in the property. They might see the room as they peek in, but because of your details, they can now see, oh, the vaulted ceiling, oh, the queen or
right
inside. It's much larger
yep.
than it might appear just as I look into it without the furniture and stuff. So you're helping them to see what you see.
Right.
You kind of guiding them.
Yes, I appreciate that. If you couldn't hear Miss Pat, she was just saying it reiterates what's already there. It allows them to visualize. Remember, we told that seller, we want the seller to understand that we want to prepare the home from a buyer's perspective. We don't know what they want. We might introduce something to them that they didn't know they wanted either. So it highlights those things because they might miss it in a listing with, when you pull up that listing and you're like, oh, hardwood floors and, You might not see that. We can't squeeze all this into the remarks. They may forget. We're going to remind them again and again. Marketing the listing. So this is just going to touch on some things we talked about, but it's really important. So Bright MLS. There's a lot of property information there, but highly rely on those remarks. A lot of the times, and you probably do the same thing, when you look at a listing, you go straight to the remarks sometimes. It's a quick way, especially if there's no photos, to learn about that property. Be very detailed and intentional with your remarks. Again, we're talking about marketing. Everything that you can touch and share or elaborate, you want to put that value there. I had a listing in Howard County, and it was a beautiful home, and it was too many things to list. And it wasn't, and I sit down with this, you want to do this too, sit down with the seller and ask them, what improvements have you made? What the improvements were, when they did them. Those things are important. If they did them 2 years ago, great. If they got windows 2 years ago, wonderful. If they got windows 10 years ago, that's huge, because I've been in homes with 30-year-old windows, So highlight those things. Those are not things that they'll have to do right away. But back to the Howard County property. This seller, I asked the seller everything you can tell me about the property. I asked the husband and the wife. You get different answers when you ask both, right? Well, we listed the property. We got a dozen offers. It went well over the list price. But it wasn't until after it went under contract that the seller came to me and he said, Angela, I don't want any of these televisions. There's a flat screen on the wall in every room. He decided he didn't want those. You know what? And we don't need this and we don't need that. These are questions you might want to ask your seller before. He didn't reveal that information before, but how much value would that have added with the 10 offers that came in? Would have been huge, right? So we want to make sure we include those things. So for marketing the listing, these are items that we're adding to the MLS, but we're also going to make available. So we have these tags everywhere. Our tags are branded. They say Porterhouse. So when people walk in, they're like, they know who did this. They remember. How many open houses have we been to where a realtor would come in and say, I'm stealing this. I'm taking it. They're taking pictures of it. We're flattered, right? But we have agents who love what we do, and we have buyers who love what we do. And that buyer who's not in contract with that buyer agent, they're going to remember who we are and what we did. So be expecting those calls, because they do matter. So it does make an impact. So the reason I have the Bright MLS also here is when you're doing your listings, print out your a one pager. You could do the full page, but print out your property information. It's going to be valuable for you when you have your open house as well. When they come, right, we can email them the listing, which I highly recommend. However, you can connect. If they want information on the property, get their phone number and send it to them. That's my number one way to do it. However, some people don't have phones with them. Have that MLS printout so they can have all the details on the property. Highlight special features. We talk about that. List those special features. Attach them to that MLS printout. Have it in on some type of form so they can take it with them. They might be looking at several houses, several open houses that day. You can leave this at the property even when you're not having an open house, and say, take one. That buyer will take one, and it'll have all those details that they would have forgotten because they're looking at multiple homes. But again, those special features are important. Listing flyer or brochure. These two documents we just talked about, the features, the MLS, you can make that a part of a listing flyer or packet. If you aren't doing brochures, you can create one in Canva. You can make it classy. You can do whatever you want. You can keep it simple. You don't have to pay for anything, and you can just use these documents that we talked about. You can do a flyer in Canva, come in the office and print it out. That costs you free 99. That's what I was waiting for. So you can attach all those together and make yourself a brochure. Use bright colors. Y'all know me, I don't like wasting ink. So keep the paper white and let that house pop on that picture. Because I would hate for you to come in here with your 500 flyers and run out of ink. So just be mindful of that if you're actually going to be door knocking and you really want to, have these flyers at the property. So I added on here sync and constant contact. Again, we're talking about marketing. How can we use, it's a lot of people in the office, and you guys online, I want you to chime in. How can we use Sync and Constant Contact for marketing? I need somebody to share.
Constant contact is like sending out the, emails, like, of course, the holiday emails, like use it for that.
Yep.
If I wanna do like a blast information to, my sphere, I'll use constant contact for that.
Okay, so Winifred said, I'm already using Constant Contact for holidays, for all this different information. She's got some good stuff going on in Constant Contact too. But she's sharing a lot of value, right? So people are already anticipating her emails to come. Why not have, okay, Winifred may not have a listing right now, but she's like, Darlene, I'll post Darlene's listing. All they're gonna see is Winifred, throwing out all these properties. She's on a roll. They don't know she started her real estate business last month. I know she didn't start last month, but they don't know when she started. She said I did, but just keep in mind, no one has to know whether you're in the business for 10 days or 10 years. You can promote your porterhouse listings. If you really want to go hard with promoting them, call that listing agent. They may give you some suggestions and other content to post, right? So that's what Constant Contact is good for. Winifred has a listing coming up. Darlene has a listing on the market. If you want to post this today, contact them and say, hey, can I post your listing? Do you think they want you to promote their listing?
They don't have that.
Darlene said you don't have to add. We already know. And Darlene will copy anybody's thing and repost it for you. So just keep in mind that Sync is also another tool. We talked about this last month. We got some really great information on Sync. How we can do, is it called auto tracks or something like that, where you can set up drip campaigns. So why not add with your Sync contacts? Now, why do we have Sync contacts? Usually it's somebody who's probably interested in buying a home, right? Whether it meets their criteria or not, you're trying to engage with them, send them Winifred's listing. Okay? Ask them, do you know someone? You know why? Because you then can be the buyer agent who who actually brings the buyer for that listing. So it allows us to engage with them, even when it has nothing to do with the condo they're trying to purchase, right? So let's utilize the resources that we have. High quality photography. You notice I did not say professional photography because I have a high quality camera. It's right here. And I can do amazing things with this camera. So I'll tell you that I had a listing with Anastasia in Waldorf. She took amazing pictures. Okay. And she brought in a nice professional camera and she brought in her phone and she took the pictures and she sent them all to me. And she goes, Angela, which ones do you like? So of course, I'm very particular. I picked the ones that I liked. Those are the ones we put in the MLS. And the next time I called her, I said, Anastasia, I need you to go take my pictures, which she did. But she said, I don't have my camera with me. I only have my cell phone. And I said, okay, well, we can do it another day. She said, well, you know, the ones you picked were all from my cell phone. So who needs the camera, right? So she went and did those. Darlene has taken great pictures. We had a listing in DC and we were standing up on air conditioning units, whatever you got to do to capture those pictures. But her and I will take pictures, compare, we'll pick the one that we like. Oh, this one has a spot or whatever. And you can edit those yourself. So I highly encourage you to use high quality photography. If that's not you, hire someone. And I'm gonna tell you the benefits of hiring a photographer. They have marketing packages sometimes that's included. They'll do videos, drones. Sometimes those are needed. And I you know, we can't do all of that. And sometimes it's better to leverage that stuff anyway, because we're working on getting more listings, right? So as much as I love my photography and I will, every time I go to a property, I'll take the pictures. If they're not the way I want them to look, I'm calling the photographer and say, I need you to come do this. Mm-hmm. Try taking them yourself. Okay, Jasmine wants me to share with you how to make them look great. So there's different things you can do with your camera. So you want to make sure you get to the farthest back of the corner of the room and try to get the widest shot. Now I'll tell you how you present your photos on, in the MLS. Sometimes you're turning your camera one way and turning it another way. You need to be mindful of that because then it looks like you did it. Okay, that's first and foremost. But we talked about lightening and brightening your space. Sometimes you need a flash, sometimes you don't. Sometimes the space does not have enough light in it. bring you a lamp into the room. It makes a huge difference, okay? It's okay to go into a space, and if they've left things out, move everything. They put 5 items on the dresser, clear them off, take your picture, and let them put their items back on there because you're trying to market their property, okay? We'll probably have to go through a whole lesson on photography because I probably have 100 tips for you guys. And I want to be able to get through this. You had something, Armand?
No, I was gonna say, that I've seen you take it with certain angles.
Yes.
And the angles that you put the picture in larger, okay, it incorporated more of the total room. And I've seen.
So I'm going to tell you what Kerman said. That was a good point because then I'll bring up that one. But he was saying you take your pictures at different angles. Now, what I will do when I go into a room, I don't know what these are going to look like and which ones I want to use. I'll go to every corner of the room and take a picture. Okay, at least one picture from every corner. And my camera will zoom out and capture. I could take a picture here and zoom out and it'll get every single thing in here. So that was a great ad, Kerman. But just go through and take multiple pictures because it used to be where I would take my pictures, I'd get home, I'd select them, and I thought, wow, I wish I would have gotten that different angle. You know, do some up close and do some far away. Which one?
In your
Okay, so Darlene uses different filters in her camera, and it'll help you to adjust light.
lighting.
You can, and I was mentioning this to Winifred the other day. I took a picture, and I learned this from Anastasia. I took a picture, and I don't know what it was, but one corner was so dark, and it was messing my picture up. But you can go right in your phone. I tapped in that corner, I brightened up that corner, and boom, it was fixed. Took no effort. When you guys come in the office, these are the things we do and share and practice. I can't do this over Zoom. Sorry, you guys aren't here. We'll do this later. But the high quality photographer is everything. And one thing I've mentioned as well, you have 21 days on the market. Every time, if I'm not mistaken, every time you update your listing, whoever's has it as a saved listing, they're going to get that. So in coming soon, I'll do that exterior photo. It might be the front and the back of the house. In a couple of days, I might release some more photos. In a couple of days, I'm going to release some more photos only because I'm either waiting for them to declutter, right? Or I'm waiting for staging, and I'm not putting a bunch of pictures that I'm going to take down and then make them better. I'm piquing their interest. They can't wait for this house to come on the market, right? So while we have one project going on and the ceiling being fixed, if these rooms are done, take pictures of those. But I think all of us would agree, one thing we dislike is when we have a listing and there's no pictures. So we're going through the remarks. You know who likes that, who dislikes that more than we do? Buyers. They will swipe. I don't want to see any of those. So I'm the listing agent who all my buyers are looking at the ones with no pictures because I guarantee the majority of them are saying there's no pictures. I don't know what's there. And they're not even including it on their list of likes. If they're doing that with other listings, they'll do that with yours. And you're not even giving your seller a chance because you don't even have an exterior photo. Your exterior photo needs to be put up within 24 hours. And if you don't have interior photos because you don't like the property or it's old, find something in that home and take some pictures. They want to see something. Okay. Videos and drone images. We talked about that with the photography. And depending on, I mean, you'll know that listing. If it's got a lot of land, Angela's not taking your pictures. I don't do that well. You probably need a photographer who has a drone who can highlight some area attractions or things that you're close to. And then finally, floor plans. I love this because we have apps in our phone. You know, I hate that these phones and the assistant taking notes, they're taking people's jobs. They really are. They are. Because they're photographers I value, they are incredible. And I'm taking some of these things because of features that we have, but I still encourage the leverage of hiring those people to do this because their work is better. So you have to really consider that. Mine might be an 8.5 out of 10. And then they come and do something great. So if you hire someone though, please tell them what pictures you want. It's nothing worse than hiring a photographer who comes out and takes your pictures and they didn't capture a single thing that you wanted and you just spent $300 to $400 or $200 to $300. It's the worst thing in the world because then you don't use theirs and you're in there with your Pro 15 trying to redo the pictures. So let's see. How much time do I have, you guys?
And I got 8 minutes worth.
You have 8 minutes.
Okay.
When you're at 5.
I can do it in 7. Isn't it like that show, the name that tune? I can do it in 7 minutes. No, I can't. Because Jasmine made me talk about one thing no matter what on my list. So I'm gonna take my 7 minutes. Anyway, marketing the listing. I'll go through these but they are important. A lot of people say, oh, snail mail, we don't do that anymore. I do. Postcards are great, right? And if you are a little skimpy with them, they're probably not that great. So go big with your postcards, make them bright. You can pay for all the colors and printing you want because it's not being printed in here. So make your postcards stand out. You can write letters. You can do whatever you want. If you go into brokerment, there are templates that you can use. You can use email, but right now we're talking about mailings. Yes, do them. They do matter. If it's not in your budget, we have a whole list of things that are in your budget. Social media, that's exhausted. We know what to do with that. And when our leadership team comes on and talks about social media, they're going to give you a whole lot of information on how you can market on social media, right? From reels to anything. These things really do make a difference. Reels get more traction than everything else. If you don't know how to do a reel, we do that in the office too when we're done Realty Talk. So make sure you come in the office. Other than that, we have our open house. We got a chance to go to an open house after our boot camp. You got to see exactly how things are done. If you didn't get a chance to see it, then we have open houses coming up. You just, come to those open houses and take a look. But it's a great way to market your property with all the things we talked about. In addition to that, signs. How do signs benefit us when we're marketing our property? We want to get a sign out front that says for sale. How many people will not know about this property if you don't have the sign, right? There are some communities that have restrictions. We have to be creative. If your community does not allow a sign, outside that community, run signs all down the highway. You want to attract them there, put a QR code on it. They're going to scan it and they're going to say, oh, there's a house in that neighborhood for sale, right? We don't care about your restrictions, putting our signs in the window, trying to figure out what we can do, right? Thank you. In addition to that, for your open house, y'all, I'm really big on the too many signs. If I have too many signs in my open house and I've done a good job. Have you ever been to, let's say you want to go before real estate, you went to open houses. We all did that, right? But we were hesitant. Like if our neighbor's house come on the market, we're like, we want to go see it. But we're like, they're going to know it's me. Well, we do neighbor sneak peeks to invite the neighbors out. The neighbors, I've had listing where the neighbors have come out and found me a buyer. It does happen. Forget what the statistics say. Open houses don't bring you buyers. You change the statistic, right? So when it comes to, like 3 minutes. But when it comes to the signs, I will put writers everywhere, or what is it? Directional signs. Yes, because for those people who are hesitant, or that neighbor who says, I want to see it, but they will come with your balloons and all your signs. It's screaming, come and look at this house. And people come in, they open the door, they feel very warm, welcome to come in and look at the property, okay? But that definitely attracts people. People who are not looking for a house, they see an open house, they're like, oh, there's an open house in my neighborhood, they will come. More than a dozen signs, I was about to say 20. I want more than 20. You have to use more than a dozen signs, okay? If you don't have them, put something in WhatsApp and say, I need to borrow some signs, and put them everywhere. It makes a huge difference, especially when you're doing your neighbor sneak peek. QR code. You can make those in Canva. They're free. There are all these tools you can use to create your QR code. It's a way to attract people to market your property. Put it on your sign, put it on all your flyers, put it everywhere. It's a way to capture information as well. Okay, on my last slide. So tracking your listings are important. We talked about all these different ways to market our properties, right? I am telling you guys, I probably didn't even mention half of the things that you can do. This is more than enough. I didn't want to overwhelm you guys. So we will talk about more ways to do that. Not only that, it's in brokerment. There are ways and ways to market your home in brokerment that we haven't even gotten to. Before I finish this slide, there is a In Brokerman, under working with sellers, I think it's called listing process. It tells you exactly how, everything that we've covered this month, things that I didn't even cover. If you have not seen it, it's like, I don't know, it's like 6 pages. It tells you what to do before, during, after, and more. It is so much information that if you don't have someone to call and say, I don't know what to do, pull that out. Use it as a checklist. You don't have to show it to your seller. It's your cheat sheet, but use it as your checklist. And I would love to see someone use that and say, with my listing, look at all, highlight the things you did do and show it to us so that we can see what worked, what didn't work. We know it didn't work, didn't highlight everything on the page, but let's try to use these tools that we have. So let me get through this really quick. You guys always know I like going to other resources that are free to us. Bright MLS has webinars. There's a webinar I spoke about a couple weeks ago. I think it's called Tracking Your Listing. It has hit counters. It allows you to track who's looking at your listing, how many people, what real estate agents, buyers, everybody. Reverse prospecting. Does anyone know how to reverse prospect? Come in the office. We'll talk about it a little bit more. But you can go to your tracking your listing. Last night, I've already done this training. I got on last night and I said, well, let me see when this next training is. I clicked on it. There was one at 9 this morning, 10. They're only like 20 or 30 minutes, but it walks you through and tells you exactly how to do it. Reverse prospecting allows anyone looking at your listing for you to turn around and throw some information back at them. If your house went under contract and came back on the market, reach out to all of those people. It's very simple. It can happen in an instant. It's very quickly. You can do it in between phone calls. 5 minutes, you can reverse prospect and attract a lot of people. People who were interested in your listing. Sharing your listing. Take this course. It is less than 30 minutes and it's free. They tell you how to share your listing. Does everyone know how to share their listing in Bright? Good, great. It's very easy to do. In addition to that, I have on here seller feedback, listing performance reports, Bright MLS. You can pull listing performance reports. They'll tell you that in the training as well. Has anyone done that? It tells you how your listing did. I know y'all haven't done it, but it's there for you to use. Showing feedback. You guys, I love showing feedback. I have a Curb Hero app. I have people filling out papers. When we do open houses, when the people come in, I know them very well because I use all these tools to engage with them, layers and layers of engagement. I door knocked with Darlene at her listing the other day. And when I pulled up early for the sneak peek, I had on my bags and the neighbor I talked to, he said, Angela, can I help you with your bags? And I said, that's the type of engagement I want. There was one more thing. I got to tell you guys this. There was a guy sitting in his car and I didn't tell y'all this already, did I? I gave him the flyer for the open house. He was like, no, I don't want to waste your flyer, honey. Go ahead and take this back. He said, it's a terrible time to buy. Interest rate, everyone's waiting for the interest rates. And he said, I know a ton of people who want to buy. They're just waiting for the interest rates to go down. I took that flyer back and I flipped it over. Thanks to Miss Pat. She put the expo flyer on the back. I flipped it over. I said, oh, well, this is the flyer for you. I gave him that flyer. He took it. We had a nice long conversation. He took that flyer and put it on the seat of his car. And then it was like, you need to let these people know. So we spent a lot of time just talking. If I got to him, everyone he knows is going to be excited about this if he shares the flyer. But we have to use our hi, hello and get their information so we can follow up with them and find out all those people who need to be at this expo. And then lastly, the open house feedback. We're marketing our property. Oh, that's why we're really doing it. We're getting that feedback for our seller, not for us, but we get it for our seller because whatever feedback we get, it allows us to make the adjustments that we need to make in order to market their property the best that we can. We have to continue to do CMAs, continue to check those properties and make sure you're priced well. If other homes are in that neighborhood are closing for 20, 30,000 less, you might want to make a change. Otherwise, you're going to have an expired listing. So continue to do that. And one last thing I'll say, when you have a listing, create a search for your listing, a search for that neighborhood, and set up an automatic search to come to yourself. So you have a listing coming up. You set up an automatic search. Anything that pops up, Winifred is going to get that property. She's not going to wait for her seller to say, oh, my neighbor's house 4 houses down came up on the market. She's going to already know about it. It's automatically coming to her email every single day. Then you're in the know, not just with what came on the market, what went under contract, and what closed. because it's going to help you to guide your seller as to whether you need to make changes while your property's listed. So that's it, you guys. Anybody have any questions? I went over 3 minutes, I think. I got excited.
We're gonna end the recording.
Now you can have the question.
Come on, have some questions.
And I'm not gonna go. So I'm gonna ask two, and whichever one will take the least amount of time to answer that. But before I do that, all I gotta say is this, wow. Okay? Let me say it backwards, wow.
Oh, you've done that before.
Okay, so here's my question. I did that for Ann. Okay, so if you have a person who's still living in the house. So there's a lot of stuff they can't take out because they still living in the house. So that's the question number one. What do you suggest? You still suggest they take everything out? Do you suggest they leave the stuff that they're using it and just try to make it look nice?
Okay.
Yeah,
So that's
one.
let me do that one first. That's a great question. In case you didn't hear Kerman, he says, if someone's living in the home, what do we do while they're still living there, right? So one suggestion I give, especially when they have kids, everything needs to come off the counter still. Give them a little caddy, put all their essentials, kind of like college students, right? They don't leave their stuff in the shower. They take it back to their room. So take your little caddy. If that's an issue, provide them all caddies and say, look what I got you. I got you these $3 Tree caddies. This is what you're going to do to make this a little simpler. Yes, you're going to have to still make your bed. You're going to have to do those things. So you prepare them, give them a checklist of how you want the home presented when it's being shown. That same checklist is how you present it at an open house. So you have to get them to do that. And it's a matter of whether or not you want to get a lot for your home. We don't want it to be look lived in, and they have to do this. I think we, well, I won't go into the story, but you have to encourage them to do it. And if you're having a hard time, call me. I'll come there and I'll assist.
So the second part.
Because they will take it, get rid of it.
The second part of that is when you're putting it on coming soon, okay? And everybody's trying to get everything squared away, but you run out of time in coming soon. Okay, walk me through that. And also a lot of times people will move a lot of stuff out of their house and all they do is move it into the garage. Now the garage is packed. The house is empty, the garage is packed.
Yeah.
Would you suggest before we do anything, because we want to see the garage, we got to get all that stuff out of there? Or is that okay and you just don't take pictures? Okay,
those are all really incredible questions, and I deal with every listing, so I'm glad you asked that. There are some situations where I am okay with the stuff going. If they can't remove the stuff, I'd rather be in the garage than throughout the home, because chances are the person who moves in their garage is going to look like that as well. Find a basement, find a unfinished room. You tell them where you want those things to be stored. If it's a corner in the garage, make room for one car, and then we leave a tag saying, okay, so I had a Bowie listing. They said, we have no place to put our stuff. They took the extra bedroom, and I said, line those boxes as neat as you can in this room. They weren't neat, but they put them in the room. I put a note on the door, and it said, keep this door closed. But then it said, feel free to take a peek. This room is being, the current sellers are packing up all their things to make room for you. So I put some little catchy thing. So everyone took a peek and they closed the door back, because coming up the steps is the last thing I needed them to see. But I let them know it's okay to go in here, but this is what we're doing so we can get out of this house so you can get in here. So you can be clever with your words. Did I answer all your questions? There was one more. Oh, when it's incoming soon. That's why I wanted to stress in here that budget and that timeline. Sometimes the things don't work, unexpected things happen. It's really a case-by-case situation. If you have it incoming soon and it cannot go on the market, it's gonna temporarily come off the market.
And I think you told me, so it has to actually come completely off the market to
Temporary off the market. And you don't want that. So that's why it's important that you stress these things and you come up with that timeline and you call them every day to make sure they're on point with that timeline, because if they go beyond the 21 days, it's a problem. So a lot of the times I may not get a full 21 day incoming soon because I don't feel confident that we're going to reach the deadline that, for the coming soon. And I may only get 1 or 2 days out of coming soon, and I'll opt to do that instead of being in coming soon for 21 days and it's not finished.
So you're saying you wait, put it in coming soon, so you know it's almost
until I feel confident that if something unexpected happens, there's nothing that we can do. That was going to happen either way. But if I give them 21 days to do something that it would take them, my 21 days, they only have 14 days to do what they need to do, because then the photographer comes on day 15. If the photographer comes on 15 and they keep delaying me and the photographer comes on day 19, I'm still okay. But that 21 days isn't for them. The 21 days is for me to market. They only get 7 to 10 days to do what they need to do. Otherwise, they're already doing this stuff before we go into coming soon.
Because some people would think you tell them. 21
That
days.
21 days is for me. It is not for them. They have 2 weeks max, and I don't even give them that. It's pretty much done. It's like they have a few things to do, or I could do them in order to put it in 21 days, because now we need to do all the things we talked about right here. We need a market, we need a stage, we need to help them with what they didn't do. When they turn it over to us, I now have 21 days to do these things. You're in control of your listing. And if you let them be in control of your listing, you're going to be on temporarily off the market. So either that or you're going to have a listing that sits on the market. All right, guys, any questions? I wish you guys were in here because we're going to keep talking about this. Thank you.
Unless she's hired to teach this, because, you know.
I work for Porterhouse International Realty Group, not MLS. Does anyone have any questions before we close for today? Any comments? You can put something in the chat or you can chime in quickly before we close out. All right, then. Thank you, guys. I'll hand it on over to Darlene.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, guys, that was what Mrs. Porter said, outstanding. So I want to remind everybody that tonight, excuse me.
You want me to do it?
Go ahead. We have mastermind tonight. So I hope you guys will join us for that. 7 o'clock. Oh, here. Here at the office. I'm sorry. 5:30. It's at 5:30. The expo. Oh, and we're having the expo prep at 5:30. Expo prep at 5:30. We're doing a dress rehearsal. So hopefully you guys, well, not hopefully, those of us that are supposed to be here, please be here at 5:30 for our expo prep. Okay? You guys have a nice day.
See you later.
See you later. Okay. Good job.